Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. I will be your chairman for tonight's program, the 333rd program of the Belizean Affairs show. Uh, Tonight being Friday, we'll deal with some constitutional and legal case law matters as usual. And if we have extra time, we'll deal with some other issues. Again, my name is Leonard Brackett, and I'll be your host and chairman for tonight. I don't see any of our other regular panelists in the background yet, so I'll just move on. And in the interest of time, we're running a few minutes late. I'll just close my eyes and say a prayer, after which I'll do a short Bible reading. Divine Loving Father, we thank thee for this privilege to come before thy presence once more. We pray that thou must accept our humble expression of gratitude and thankfulness to thee for the privilege of life that thou hast granted us and the opportunity to still be alive today among our family members, friends, and loved ones. We pray that thou must bless this program, that whatever we have to offer tonight may be of some positive public benefit to our people of Belize at home and abroad, as well as to others. We also pray that thou must bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, thou knowest them all by name and number. Please bless those who are sick. Please bless those who have need of food and clothes and shelter. Please give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, endurance, perseverance, strength of fortitude and character. We pray that thou must bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership, and that thou would bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership as well, and also those people who are in war zones, tornadoes, disasters, hurricane, flooding, earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and all manner of pestilence on the face of this earth. Lord Father, please be merciful unto us, we pray. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much for indulging me in being able to grace our program with a little prayer. I will proceed by finding a scripture so we can do a short scripture verse. Let's see where I'll pick that one from. I'll go Songs of Solomon. We have Ecclesiastes too. Let me take a reading from the book of Ecclesiastes for tonight. Let's see what I'm going to read here. These are large. Okay, let's read this one. We'll read chapter 3, verses 1 and 2 and 3 of the book of Ecclesiastes, which reads as follows. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Verse 3 reads as follows. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. I'll take verse 4 and 5 as well, since they are very short. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And verse 5 reads as follows. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracement. So in the book of Ecclesiastes, we're admonished there that there's a time for just about any and everything. So we know that we are in a period of time where a whole lot of crazy stuff is going on throughout the world, but despair is not an option. If we expect to continue surviving on this earth and to appreciate and do the best we can, then it behooves us to not despair, but to trot on and do the best as usual. Thank you very much again for being here with us tonight. I hope that whatever we have to offer may provide some positive public benefit to you. I'll start tonight's program dealing with the Constitution of Belize, and we have an exercise that's being undertaken right now by some individuals in government, and we have been dealing with some of those recommendations that were made to do major changes to the Constitution. Of course, when you're going to do a major change to the Constitution, you don't just go to the House of Representatives and propose laws like you do in a normal circumstance, where the legislator gets together and they propose a law, they discuss it, they vote on it, they send it to the Governor General for ascension, they gazette it, meaning that they publish it so that the general public can then uh, uh, deal with these laws that are put on the book thereafter. The fact that they're trying to change the Constitution wholesale have a different requirement. That is that because there are some parts of the Constitution that are not to be tampered with and or that are not supposed to be written out of existence or amended to the point of being obliterated or eviscerated, the requirement then is that some powers are vested in the legislative body, other powers are vested in the Constitution itself, by which the legislative body has to abide by, and then there are other powers which are vested as reserved powers unto the people, which if the legislative want to tamper with any of those powers or acquire and make use of any of those powers, they then have to come to the people by means of a referendum, a plebiscite. That is, to consult with the population and to get or gain the acquiescence of the population, not by means of consultation like they do when they go and have a little gathering with a few people in a community hall, mostly some friends or relatives, and they pass it off as consultative effort in replacement of what the Constitution requires or demands of them to do, which is to have a plebiscite, to have a referendum, so the people can vote on those critical matters and decide whether or not they want to grant the government the privilege or the authority to tamper with those, especially rights, if they're some of the rights, like for example under section 3 all the way through section 19. If they want to tamper with any of those rights or abrogate any of those rights, they first have to have the acquiescence of the people. Nevertheless, as I indicated earlier, we have been dealing with some of these matters in the past, and tonight is one of those nights that we're going to take up some more of these recommendations that was made by the PCC under the PCC Act, which by itself was intended as a bastardization of the Constitution, and under which the current government is trying to pretend that some authority was granted to them under that PCC Act, that even the Governor General didn't have any such authority to grant them. But somehow they are misled, or they're trying to mislead the people into believing that that power was authorized to them, and therefore they are trying to make use of it now by making these major constitutional changes and alter the Constitution in such a way that it will not be the same as the one that we now currently have. That is to say, to overthrow the constitutional order of business in our country. That itself is another breach of faith or good faith between the people who we have entrusted our powers of governance. Because while they are pronounced as being the government of the day, in effect, they are the caretakers of our government. We, the people, are the government. Wherever there's a democracy, the people are the government. And those who are running the affairs in the cabinet of the government, as in the case of a democratic system, as compared to an authoritarian system where the kings rule and or the big man of the day, in terms of the autocrats or dictators, they decide what is law and what isn't law. In our country of Belize, we have what you call a society of law. I see someone in the background. I think it might be our second or next senior panelist, and he has the ability to bring himself on. So I will not distract anymore from what I'm trying to say, so that I don't. I'll just let him come in, and then when he's in, because sometimes he's in the background doing other things. He's not only just a panelist as well, he's also a senior engineer, and sometimes he has little things that he wants to grace us with. So let me just continue on then. I was just saying that as a proviso to the general public in terms of what I was articulating and why I had to stop articulate, because I saw him in the background. Nevertheless, the item number or recommendation number 55 by that particular commission, PCC, People's Constitution Commission, it reads as follows. Number 55, to amend the Constitution to remove the Governor General powers. Now, before we go any further, I will make a statement here, and I'll try and read from the Constitution a little piece of what is relevant in terms of them stipulating that they want to make this change, and this becomes one of their recommendations. And I want to put that recommendation in its context. That is to say, whether or not they even have the authority vested in them, to proceed with any such recommendation, whether or not it would be viable, constitutional, or valid, or legal, or lawful for them to make any such attempt without having to classify it outrightly, as I would do under normal circumstance. My classification would be one of contemptuousness, as well as an attempt to commit sedition. But I'll just read this one more time, please, and then I'll grab the part of the Constitution that relates to it, okay, so we can tackle it and see what the Constitution says about it specifically. The recommendation, number 55, is amend to remove the Governor General's powers. The Constitution of Belize, let me see, let me see, okay. Give me a second, let me just size up put it at a readable size for me so I can read it legibly, because it was large numbers just now, and I need to make it legible. Okay, let's try and live with that. The Constitution of Belize, under Part 5, deals with the executive. And we all know that, well, those of you who have been following our program particularly would know that we have expounded on these particular subject matters quite a bit in the past, and we have tried to explain them for those who may not necessarily have that sense of awareness. We're not trying to educate the educated here, or in other words, we're not trying to educate the lawyers or the judges. We're trying to provide information for the general public who may not necessarily be familiar with their Constitution, and who will be asked to make decisions in regards to this constitutional change that is being attempted. Uh, Section 6, Section 36 of the Constitution under the title of executive says as follows: 36, subsection 1. The executive authority of Belize is vested in Her Majesty. And I would put in quotation, I would put open bracket, close bracket, His Majesty, just for corrective purposes. So it reads contextually correct, because it shouldn't be saying Her Majesty anymore. She's died, and the Constitution, these miscellaneous items should have been clarified already, to the point where when I read, I would have been able to say just the executive authority of Belize is vested in His Majesty, rather than as it's written here, Her Majesty. That's just for clarity. But please bear in mind that that executive authority is vested. It didn't say in the Prime Minister, did I? Did I read that it said in the Prime Minister? Did I say that executive authority is vested in the Governor General? Or any of the Governor General's subordinate officers? No, I didn't say that, right? I said and I read, the executive authority of Belize is vested in Her Majesty or His Majesty currently. Subject to the subsection 2 reads as follows: subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of Her Majesty or His Majesty by the Governor General, who is appointed and serves at the pleasure of the chief executive, who himself is now as head of state, the King of England. The Governor General works at the pleasure of the head of state. The Governor General is not the head of state proper, but represents the head of state with some authority vested in the Governor General under a writ. Whenever a Governor General is recommended for the office of Governor General, the appointment to that office comes from the head of state, and it comes with a writ designating the authority vested in the Governor General. And that authority that is vested in His Majesty under Section 2 here, subsection 2, it says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of His Majesty by the Governor General, either directly or through the officers subordinate to him. And the reason why I read that part just now, as I said, the PCC Commission made a recommendation number 55, to get rid of the authority or the powers of the Governor General. Now, I don't know how come they got so slick, or so smart, or so audacious as to try and get rid of the powers of their boss. Because under normal circumstances, that should not be possible. Good night, Greg. I was doing a little constitutional review just now, and I saw you in the
Good
background.
night, Mr. Chairman. You can proceed, sir.
You want to
No,
self-identify?
proceed.
Oh, okay.
Proceed first, and where you at?
Okay, thank you. So what I was intimating then is that it is backward to assume that a commission has the power and authority vested in it to intimate that the Governor General's powers should be abolished, and to request that the legislator exercise powers that they don't have to, in effect, so-called abolish the office and the powers of the Governor General. Now, the members of the legislature are elected officials or individuals in the country. They're elected by the people, and after they get elected, they go to the Governor General for the Governor General to assent for them to become the government of the day, or the caretaker of the government of the day. Why? Because, as I read just now, the executive authority of Belize is vested in the head of state. And the head of state has someone representing the head of state in Belize. And that someone is granted some powers from the head of state for that person as a Governor General in Belize to allow subordinate officers of the Governor General, being the elected officials, to come to the Governor General to get permission and to get the ascension of powers for them to be able to take up the day-to-day governance of Belize. The Governor General is not given any authority for her, who serves at the pleasure of the head of state, to vanish the head of state. She's not empowered with that type of authority. So she's not in a position to transfer or give those authorities to her subordinate officers for them to get rid of her and as well get rid of her boss, the head of state. I hope Belizeans are listening and hearing and understanding, contextualizing what is it that I'm intimating. That is that what these people are attempting to do, pretending to be exercising authority that is not vested in them or that they don't have any control over. But somehow they're running along with this bastardized process, giving the impression that they have some kind of authority that would allow them, without the Governor General's ascension, which is how the process works, for them to go to the legislature, pass a legislation saying that the authority vested in them, which comes from the Governor General, they are supposed to be able to use that same authority and pass a law to abolish the Governor General's position or get rid of the Governor General. But for that law to become legal, lawful, constitutional, it has to have the ascension of the Governor General. Now, I don't know which Governor General is going to stoop to that kind of beck and call and shenanigan to sign any such law that comes out of the legislature. Because right there, before she put a signature on that, she should be able to return that to them with a no-go edict. That is, she will not sign any such law. She has no authority to pretend that she can sign any such law and make it legal, lawful, or bring it into existence, or make it constitutional, much less allow to get rid of the head of state. She does not have those powers. So as much as the current government may think that they have some kind of influence over the present Governor General, that may be a case. They may have some influence over her, but she has no power or authority to assent to their request to abolish her position and the Governor General, and the head of state position, so they can inherit the head of state position unto themselves. I would like to read some more, but I want to go to you, Greg, to ask if you would indulge in making a statement before I go further.
Go ahead, sir. I will take up when you're finished.
Well, the whole night is going to be about that, so
Go
I
ahead for a little
don't
bit
want to be
more.
abusive, you know. Okay,
Go ahead
I'll
for a
just
second.
I'll just go ahead and do a little more. Um, I'll read section 3 subsection 3 of the same section 36 that I just started with. And that subsection says as follows: nothing in this section shall prevent the National Assembly from conferring functions or persons authorized other than the Governor General. That is, that the legislator may confer office or official authority to individuals in the day-to-day management of the country, as is delegated to them through the ascension of governance powers at the time when they go for to get swearing. And in their swearing, they swear allegiance to the Constitution, they swear allegiance to the government and the Governor General, head of state, boss. Okay? And without which, if they don't swear that allegiance of office and governance, they are not then authorized and or sanctioned to be able to take up the authority of governance. So they can commit as much treason or sedition as they so wish to, but that doesn't mean that their attempt or actions has validity to it, legal or lawful or constitutional merits to it. Because even if that was to be the case, that they somehow or another, they passed these laws in the legislature, the Governor General, for whatever reason, signs or assent to it, or maybe the Deputy Governor General probably assent to it in the absence of the Governor General, it still does not become law. Because if it's put on the book and it's challenged, the Supreme Court is supposed to strike it down as being null and void for its inconsistence with the Constitution. That the executive authority is not vested in the legislature or the cabinet. It is vested in the power above them that gives them the opportunity by ascension process to act as the government of the day. And if the Supreme Court or High Court were to pull shenanigans like they have been doing recently, that is to go along with the executive, to allow the executive to pretend that, okay, well, the Supreme Court has decided in their favor in these regards, they can still be challenged at the appellate court. And more likely than not, the appellate court will not sustain that type of egregious conduct. And if need be, the matter can be taken all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is currently the replacement for what used to be the Privy Court. And more likely than not, the government will attempt to act unconstitutionally, could be taken down at that point too. At the bottom line, the government cannot arbitrarily and capriciously exercise powers that are outside of their boundaries of authority. Let me go ahead and read. It says, I think it's section 37. Okay, that is section 37 says, there shall be a Prime Minister of Belize who shall be appointed by the Governor General. I intimated that a little earlier. In other words, it's not the Prime Minister that appoints the Governor General, it's the Governor General appoints the Prime Minister. Okay? And there's a lot more that we'll be reading in regards to that matter. I do need to have you interject something at this point, if you don't mind, Greg, because I don't want to stop the whole thing to get changed up, you know? Greg?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome,
But
sir.
we are discussing the PCC Act, right? And
Recommendation.
you were specifying about the role of the Governor General, right?
Yes, sir.
But if you read Section 522, which is unconstitutional.
Okay,
That is,
could you hold for, just for a second? To the public that
Mhm.
is not aware of what you just mentioned when you say Section 522,
Let me go ahead and read it.
just a minute, sir. For the
Uh-huh.
public that does not understand or know what you're making a reference to when you say 522, you and I know, and other people may know what you're referring to. But to the general public, what you're referring to is the act that was brought into existence that the Governor General signed to bring about the PCC. Okay? And that act is what you're going to read from now, not the Constitution, nor are you going to be reading from the recommendations. Okay? So please go ahead, sir, for clarity to the public.
Section 5, Part 5 of the PCC Act, Section 22. A referendum shall be conducted where the National Assembly passes a resolution declaring that the matter stated in the report, whether the Belize Constitution should be repealed and replaced or amended, is of sufficient national importance that it should be submitted to the electors for their view through a referendum.
Mhm.
That section, as I read it, is
Constitutional.
unconstitutional
Exactly.
because the people of Belize has the power. They are the one who deals with national security and especially something important as our constitution. The government and parliament does not has the authority, or the governor general cannot sign into law an act that is granting parliament that power to decide if they should have a referendum or not on something as important as the Belize Constitution. I go back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And more in particular, as regards to the point of contention that I brought up earlier as the focus of the show, that is to say, the legislator does not have and could not be given or granted any ascension of powers that the Governor General herself does not have. She can't transmit to them or give them the privilege to exercise any such powers, such as to abolish the Governor General's office or position out of the Constitution, much less to abolish the head of state's position out of the Constitution. To do that, you have to commit sedition and or you got to overthrow the whole governance system. Uh, were you planning to continue some more? Or
Proceed, sir.
okay, thank you. Let me just leave this alone because I need to focus on. Okay, so under under recommendation number 56, we just read recommendation 55, right? Which says amend to remove Governor General's powers. Uh, I was going to go to recommendation number 56, which reads, it says, amend for removal of Her Majesty's in Council. This section 22.1 in the definition of court of the court should be amended to remove the reference to Her Majesty in Council. Then under some other sections, we'll see where it's not just to remove that particular one section, but also to remove the authority or the need to relate to a head of state as currently constituted in our constitution. And these are some of the shenanigans that these jackals are trying to perpetrate under the guise of making wholesale constitutional changes so that they can give the people the impression that the rest of the other items that they're trying to make changes to in the Constitution, that is to say, 100 odd different recommendations, would be they will use all those other little ancillary issues to try and disguise or cover up these major issues that they're trying to attempt. And why I'm fleshing this out is because people need to know. There are many other things that they're trying to make changes of or additions to that they are currently empowered to do in Parliament. They do not need to have a constitutional review commission to make these kind of recommendations on the basis of which they are going to try and rely to say, well, okay, the commission made those recommendations, therefore we are going to use our powers for lawmaking and we're going to pass them into law. They currently have the authority to make laws, so long as those laws fall within the bounds of the Constitution. But they want to go outside the Constitution. They want to eviscerate portions of the Constitution and replace it, for example, with their authority and their powers. I'll go ahead and read another portion here of this. Let me see. Was it? No, not the one with citizen. Give me a second. I need to go back. I need to go backwards here for a second. I need to go to, what is it? Okay. I think it's 30. Yeah, I need to go to section 30. Just spare me a couple of seconds. I'm at 31. I'm at 30 right now. Okay, so I got it. Section 30 of the Constitution of Belize under Part 4 deals with the Governor General. Section 30 reads as follows. There shall be a Governor General of Belize who shall, let me see, I need to make it a little bit smaller, just a little. Yeah, okay, that's good enough. Okay. Section 30 says, there shall be a Governor General of Belize who shall be a citizen of Belize appointed by Her Majesty or His Majesty and shall hold office during Her Majesty's or His Majesty's pleasure. That is, that the Governor General works at the pleasure of the head of state. And who shall be Her Majesty or His Majesty's representative in Belize. In other words, the Governor General is not working for and on behalf of the Prime Minister, who is the person that recommends her or him for the appointment. But rather, even though the Prime Minister recommends that person for the appointment is to hold an office that is above the level of the Prime Minister's position, because the Prime Minister is a subordinate officer to the Governor General, who has sent the power of daily governance to the Prime Minister and Cabinet. And there's no way, as I'm pointing out, which is the trick that they're trying to pull on the people, that the Prime Minister, the Governor General, having an authority vested in her that she can transmit through the PCC Act and through Congress to the executive or to Congress or the House of Representatives for them to abolish the authority and the power vested in the Governor General. And the Governor General has no authority or power vested in her to give to these guys for them to be able to get rid of the head of state, because the Governor General is a subordinate officer to the head of state. And that power to vanquish the head of state does not rest with the Governor General. That is not part of our purview or our authority. Nor should she be signing any PCC Act document to facilitate and or to authorize or give the impression that she is authorizing the PCC and the legislator to exercise any powers to attempt to get rid of her or him or whoever. That's outside of their bounds of authority. I'll just read the other portion here for further clarity. Section 31. During any period where the office of the Governor General is vacant or the holder of the office of Governor General is absent from Belize or is for any other reason unable to perform the functions of his or her office, because now we have a female Governor General, those functions shall be performed by such person as Her Majesty may authorize or may appoint. Therefore, in the absence of the Governor General, what this statement is saying here, there could be another person appointed or available or made available as a Deputy Governor General to fulfill some of those functions if there's an emergency and the absence of the Governor General to whom the primary responsibility is assented to in the first place. But even then, when you have a Deputy Governor General that is appointed to act in the absence of the Governor General, that Deputy Governor General appointment comes with stipulations, rules and regulations, and certain things that authorize them to be able to do, and other things that they're not authorized or have a power to be able to do. But we have seen in the past, as we have mentioned on our particular platform, where the Deputy Governor General, in the absence of the Governor General, has gone on to sign bastardized documentations that are the preference of the Prime Ministers and Cabinet, for whom that same Deputy Governor General act in two positions as Deputy Governor General and also the Secretary to the Cabinet. In other words, he, as Secretary of Cabinet, acts as Deputy Governor General to do favors or curry favors for the Cabinet that he is working from. We have pointed out some of those instances in the past, but us pointing it out didn't make any difference to them because that's exactly what they want to do. Okay? We're dealing with rascals, and that's how rascals operate. Anyhow, I'll make one more reading here, subsection 2. It says, any such persons as aforementioned said or mentioned shall not continue to perform the functions of the office of Governor General, that is the Deputy Governor General, if the holder or the original Governor General of the office or some other person having a prior right to perform the functions of the office has notified him or her, the deputy, who is the person being referred to here, that he, as the original Governor General, or her, as the original Governor General, is about to assume or resume those functions. The holder of the office of Governor General shall not, for the purposes of this section, be regarded as absent from Belize or as unable to perform the functions of his or her office if, as in paragraph A, by reason of that he or she, the person, is in passage or traveling from one part of Belize to another. That is, that the fact that a Governor General may be traveling from one part of Belize to the other doesn't mean that they're indisposed and or out of the country totally and or are unable to perform their functions as Governor General. That is, the matter should await for the Governor General to reach their destination within the country if there's an emergency. There's no need then for the Deputy Governor General to just jump behind the back of the regular first person Governor General to try and do any kind of hanky-panky like I just referred to and said that has been happening in the past. Okay? Because when the Governor General is absent and the deputy has to step in, that should be a public notice affair. The public must be notified that the original Governor General, who holds the original office, is indisposed or will not be available, and then the temporary Governor General appointment comes into effect, and the public, the people in the country, cabinet, the legislature, the Senate, all the people that have to deal with the Governor General or the Governor General's office must be notified. It hasn't been happening like that. Why? Because they're not following proper protocols or procedures, or nobody is taking them to task or demanding accountability of them for those kind of shortcomings. Uh, Subsection 3, the holder of the office of Governor General shall not, for the purpose of this section, be regarded as absent from Belize or as unable to perform the functions, like I said earlier, in regards to A, and then I read A already, so I'm going to read B, that at any time when there is a subsisting appointment of a deputy under Section 33 of this Constitution, and it goes on to say under Section 32, a person appointed as holder of the office of Governor General shall, before entering upon the duties of that office as Governor General, they shall take and subscribe to the oath of allegiance and office, as I previously indicated in my preliminary comments. I want to go to 33, but I want to bring in Greg because I don't. The show is going to be going on for a while, and I don't want to. Greg, can I get your attention? Would you have a comment to make or
Thank you,
something else
Mr.
to add?
Chairman. I would like to first say the first thing is the government started this out on the wrong foot. What they should have done was have a plebiscite first and see if the people was willing to go along with constitution reform.
Exactly.
But instead, they went ahead with this process and now they want to turn the people of Belize into sovereign citizens to help them achieve their agenda. And as you can see, they have no kind of dignity because they keep on bastardizing the Constitution to try to achieve their agenda. And we have seen that both with the Attorney General and with the Prime Minister, who went on to say that this PCC Act had in a referendum act when one is a liar, one is a Prime Minister, and they should fully know that Belize has only one constitution
At the
and
time.
no other has been passed into law. I go back to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much for bringing that point up, sir, because they also lied, both of them, when they said that they were not playing loose and fast with the Constitution. Because they said that the Constitution, they were deferring the referendum request that was being made by Oceana, the referendum request that was being made by other people, as in regards to the marijuana and the church issues. They said that they could not give that referendum because the PCC process was ongoing. When in fact the PCC process,
Has
none
nothing
of it
absolutely
to
to
do with the
do with that.
Constitution. The Constitution is the only one that they had as a point of reference to guide them and to follow. There was the PCC Act was unlawful in the first place, as I indicated earlier, and as a matter of procedures, they had not completed their exercise and or have that exercise been passed into the Prime Minister's office at the cabinet level for discussion, which has to happen, much less have it been voted on in the legislature. And even after it being voted on in the legislature, it still required the signature of the head of state or the Governor General on behalf of the head of state. And it also required gazetting to be put on the law book. And even after that, it would have still had the chance to be struck out or struck down as being inconsistent with the Constitution itself. But they are trying to change the present Constitution by silencing the present Constitution and bringing into effect these bastardized changes that they wanted to have, which at the end of the day, most of it was just, like I said, shenanigan and cover up for these things that are now bringing to the public attention in regards to really what the power grab behind the scene is all about.
But
Are you back, sir? Are you back?
we can take it a bit farther than that to show how bold these people are. And I had said it before many a nights on this platform that this constitution change they want to do is not to help the people. It's not to strengthen the constitution for the people. Because if that was the case, they would have done it the right way. And a prime example, people at home and abroad, to show you their intention is this 13th Amendment, in
Exactly.
which they want to stop certain Belizean from going to the court. And
Honorous.
I
Very
use the
honorous.
word certain, knowing quite well that when it is passed into law, it will fall under Section 6 of the Constitution, and it will go for each and every one of us. So that is just a farce in what
Yeah,
they're trying to do.
but
And as I have
oh, sorry.
said
Oh,
before,
I'm
also,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
that these people were after our fundamental rights
Mm-hmm.
because they were tired of losing lawsuit. And these cases is the example of what I was saying. I go back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Um, Also, we need to take into account or point out that why they were so hard to try and get these changes done to the current constitution is to be able to have the new changes that they want to put in there to be available for judges and the judiciary and or the rest of the country to relate to. That is that they will not be relating to the current constitution that we have, but they would be expected to relate to the new constitution, revised constitution that they are trying to get in place. So then, if you go to court on any of these matters, the constitution that the judges will be required to look at would be the new constitution rather than the old constitution. And by then having the new constitution as the standard for judgment or judicial review, they will have their way. All these onerous, unconstitutional laws that they are putting on the book right now will then be grandfathered into the new constitution because that's what is intended.
Informal
Some of those
laws, that
laws,
is
yes,
what
some
they're
of these laws
doing.
that they're passing right now, like the 13th Amendment and others,
Hmm.
will be grandfathered into whatever they turn out as the modified constitution. They will just add those at a later date. Okay, one bit at a time. But the end result will be that that constitution then will be validating, just like they did in the 13th Amendment, make a law that validates their illegal conduct in the past and deem it to have been legal when it was done in the past. How the hell can they get from here to there or there, from there to here, with that kind of backhanded, unconstitutional conduct? They're a bunch of scofflaws in the first place, and they're up to no good. I yield back, sir. After which I'll be reading a little bit more of the Constitution. I yield back, Greg. Greg?
Thank you, sir. Yes, as I was
You're welcome.
saying, that is what it is. They just want to make this constitution to suit themselves. They want to have a president. They want the president to take over the governor general and do the action that she is doing. You can see what they're really up to, you know, because every time they try to do something, they tell on themselves as usual. So It is not surprising to me because here in Belizean affair, we have been calling it out for nights and nights. We had been saying this is what they're after. We have pointed it out, and here we are. The proof is in the pudding. So that is what it is. I go back to you, sir.
Um, Thank you very much, sir. Let me see, where is this section 60? I'm just trying to find a particular section here that I need. I wanted us to. I think it's 64 or 65. What is it? Yeah. Okay. I want to read here from their PCC recommendation under Part 4 of our Constitution and Part 4 of their revised uh, recommendation. Under recommendation number 61, it says, amend to abolish the office of the Governor General. How much more specific does the statement have to be for anyone to easily, even at third grade, understand what that means? Amend the Constitution under Section 61, Recommendation 61, amend the Constitution to abolish the office of the Governor General. Why? I'll explain that as we go on. The PCC recommends that the office of the Governor General be abolished by replacing Part 4. Now, Part 4 is a big part of the Constitution. We just read some little bits and pieces of it just now. We didn't read the whole thing. But they want to replace the whole thing. All the powers of the Governor General, they want to bring those powers under the control of the Prime Minister. All the powers of the head of state under the Prime Minister. All the powers of the Governor General under the Prime Minister. All the powers of the executive of the judiciary, because the Prime Minister will have a commission that will dictate and determine whether or not the judiciary has made proper ruling or constitutional ruling, because the Prime Minister will have the opportunity to elect 5 people of his choice to a constitutional commission that will ride roughshod over the judiciary. In other words, they are trying to neuter the judiciary. The judiciary, according to how we know it currently under our present constitution and past judiciary system and processes, will be no more. They will not be able to judge certain cases or rule in certain cases, because that will be the purview of the Prime Minister. In other words, the position of Prime Minister will then become one of an autocrat or a dictator, like we see in the Central American republics and others. Okay? Because part of their main objective is to take Belize into the status of becoming a republic. So at some point in time, they're hoping to get Belize to become the Republic of Belize, rather than just the independent democratic country of Belize. They want ultimate power, which is what they're shooting for. They're going through all these shenanigans, bits and pieces at a time, to get us to where they want us. Because they're hoping to be able to have ultimate power exercised by them and give us less government than they are currently giving us, which we are currently complaining about. That is, they're saying they can't give us they can't give us better government right now, because they need to have these constitutional changes made. And hopefully then they will be able to give us better government. Currently, they're not giving us good governance. You know, all they're doing is pillaging the resources of the country, you know, and mismanaging and misspending the economic pie of the country. and creating a lot of havoc for people. And those who are getting a few pennies on the side, they are quite well satisfied with the process. They don't care how much these guys are taking or mismanaging or misappropriating because they are getting theirs. So what? They're not governing on behalf of the country or the people of the country. They're governing on behalf of themselves. But let me read the stuff because uh, all of what I'm saying verbally, you know, nobody has to believe or has to give any credibility to or credence to. Let me use their one words, okay? Which is why I like to read these things. Black and white, coming from their own recommendation. It says, I just read recommendation 61, which spoke about getting rid of the position of the Governor General. Recommendation number 62 reads as follows: repeal and replace Part 4, meaning the whole thing, with the establishment of the Office of the Constitution, which I just referred to just now, that the Prime Minister is going to have an opportunity to elect 5 people that will ride roughshod over the judiciary. Let's read on. 66.1 says as follows: there shall be an office of the Constitution which shall be comprised of 5 members, just as I said earlier, all of whom shall be natural born Belizeans and be of 35 years of age or 35 years old at the time of appointment. 1 member by the Prime Minister, 1 by the Ministry of House and House of Representatives, which also has a majority that the Prime Minister controls, 1 by the Ministry of the State, but one by the majority of the Senate, which also is controlled by the Prime Minister, 1 by the members. Okay, let me see. 1 by the majority of the magistrates and judges, which are hired by the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Finance, and 1 by the majority of elected local government representatives who form the city councils and town boards or town councils and village councils and alcaldes, which are all majority controlled and appointed by the Prime Minister. So for all intents and purposes, I had indicated to you earlier when I first brought up the point, they're all appointed at the behest of the Prime Minister. That is that the Prime Minister will be able to appoint this 5-member Constitution Commission board to run roughshod over the courts, over the judiciary, when in fact the judiciary is supposed to be an equal branch of government. He's neutering them and appropriating their powers unto himself. Okay? That's how dictators are born or are made. Functions of the office under subsection 2. The office of the Constitution shall have the following functions, as in the case of paragraph A: the education of the citizenry on the Constitution and the process of governance. This includes, let me enlarge this stuff a little bit here. Please bear with me for a second. This includes ensuring that the curriculum of primary and secondary and tertiary schools carry the material and instructions as well as the terms as well as the As well as that, there is a continuous communication with the public on topics concerning the Constitution. Under paragraph B, it says Constitution drafting jurisdiction by one uh, adjudicating issues arising in the Constitution making process, such as when they're putting together the Constitution or making any amendment or changes to the Constitution, initiating or requiring legislation that give life to the Constitution. 3, reviewing the constitutionality of laws in advance of legislation ante a forum or before a forum. Reviewing the constitutionality of constitutional amendments. Now, all those powers are the powers that the judiciary has currently, okay? Under Section 20 and under Section 93, 94, and 95 for judicial review, an unlimited jurisdiction to hear cases. All these things they are appropriating unto themselves. Like I said, they are nurturing the judiciary. Under paragraph C, it says to reviewing proposals, treaties, regional and international memberships to foreign bodies and reports its findings to the Senate. Now, the Senate currently has that power to ratify treaty or to review treaty or to bring treaties into final conclusion. But they're going to take that away from the Senate, give it to this 5-member panel, and then they will do what they want with it and then have the Senate rubber stamp. Okay? So it's all a bunch of jackal, a bunch of ludicrous power grab stuff. Under Section D, it says adjudicate the proceedings of referenda. Now, how will this authority to adjudicate the proceedings of referenda be the purview of this Constitution Commission rather than the court, which currently has that jurisdiction? It was the court that had to listen to the cases most recently. So now they're going to take that power away from the court and hold that onto themselves, and they're going to decide among themselves a telephone call here and a telephone call there, and they will have a conclusion, that is pliable to the then new prime minister or / president, because at that point, the prime minister as head of state will become then the president, right? Because there will be no head of state as we currently know it. I'll read one little last part here. I think, Section C. I'll skip D. Supervising the administration and ensuring the proper functions of all commissions, agencies, statutory bodies, and all government related. Let me see. I gotta go to the next page. All government related bodies, requiring of them whatsoever is necessary to comply with the Constitution. So these 5-member commission will be empowered to deal with anything that is constitutional, not the court. There's a term that I was going to, I think I should use it. All of this crap right here now is ass backward, like the vulgar people in the community would say. I'm not accustomed to using those kind of terms or phrases and so on to get a point across, but I think it was appropriate for me to have used that particular one, as in this instance. So the common man down at the lowest possible level is not left out of this discussion. They need to understand what the hell is going on. Guys, come hell or high water, they will have to deal with the outcomes. These jackals will move on from their political office when they get voted out, or when they get termed out, or whatever the case may be. But we, the people of the country, will be left with all these nefarious and evil stuff, legal maneuvers, for which we have to find money to go get lawyers to be able to help us navigate in order to stay away out of the grasp of the state. The state should not be making any policies of state that derogates from the Constitution and violates our rights. But that's all these idiots have been doing for the last 6 years now. Very little have they done that accrues to the well-being and benefit or development of the country and the people. Most of it have been about scandals, about who is getting what kind of contracts, or who is getting what kind of money, or whose property is being taken, or all these kind of shenanigans, you know. I yield back, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you. Mr.
You're welcome, sir.
Chairman, these people don't really care
They don't.
because they are bold-faced. They know about human rights. They know about the Geneva Convention. They are a part of it. And yet they hold these high-level meetings with foreigners from the US and other diplomats about human rights. And then they are still willing to bastardize the Constitution. Just recently they had a meeting like that. And let's hear it.
Love is everywhere.
Indeed, love is everywhere, and we now join Love FM's news correspondent Jaliza Roberts with a live news update.
Good afternoon, Belize and beyond. I am joined here by Mr. Leonard Oliveira, who will be explaining to us exactly what transpired here today. We know that yesterday Ben was here getting the initial report on how many persons were taking the certification and partaking in the workshop. And so, can you talk to us about what the past day and a half has been like?
Well, the past day and a half was very exciting, actually. We were focusing on human rights training for the security forces, specifically coming with training from the Human Rights Initiative, which is a program from the United States Southern Command. So within the past 2 days or so, these participants had the opportunity to focus on women, peace, and security, which is not naturally a new area, but it's something that is untouched in our region. And Belize, having created our agenda in 2021, we had different conversations about Haiti, and we had a specific professor from the William Perry Center in Washington to actually given in-depth discussions about the past experience of Haiti, the current situation, and probable future projections as what will occur. And because we're a part of the region and we do participate in peacekeeping operations, this kind of puts us in a position to know how do we react to this moving forward. Equally, yesterday we had some conversations about international humanitarian law, which believes we are signatories to the Geneva Convention and several of the Hague laws dealing with rules of war. And so it's very strange that people would naturally don't understand that human rights is a huge part of the business that we do. And if we're protectors of the state, we have to ensure that we do it in the right way, and this is what this program is about.
All right, and so the persons that were participating.
So there you go, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
they have these high-level talks about human rights. They bring in foreigners from the US and different places, and yet they are willing to bastardize the Constitution right in our face. They are willing to make laws to stop people from going to see a judge, from going to a court. Now imagine a new form of colonialism run by the police department. known as authoritarian rule. I go back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And I would like to take up the section that is being recommended by the PCC under Part 5 relating to the executive. We just touched that just now superficially. I want to get a little deeper in terms of how they're perceiving this matter to be resolved according to them. Recommendation number 63, they're saying, is the establishment of the executive authority, as if it doesn't exist already, right? Remember I read earlier. In fact, let me read it. Don't let me just mention about it. Let me just read it. Part 5 of the Constitution of Belize currently says, the executive authority of Belize is vested in Her Majesty or His Majesty. Okay? They are recommended that we take out the whole of that section 5 and add this part that they are recommending here under section 63 or part 60, section 63 of their recommendation, which is to have the establishment of the executive authority, as they are recommending something new. It already exists in our current constitution. But they want to say under 63.1, repeal section 36 of our current constitution, 36.1, and replace with the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister. Remember, I read 36.1, which says that the executive authority is currently vested in the head of state, right? They want to say, take that out, throw that away. We don't want to deal with that. We want to do with one thing. How they get to do that one thing? They will commit sedition, but they recruit we, the people of the country, as my cousin said earlier, as sovereign citizens, to back them up with their agenda to commit the sedition, treason, and hopefully for them to be able to grasp the power for themselves and to treat us and mistreat us worse than they are currently doing, which they are treating us the way they are treating us right now without any cause. But they want to be able to have ultimate power or grab additional powers to foster the treatment that they are currently giving us, to justify and bastardize the Constitution so that they can be exculpated or that we can demand of them any redress. Okay? They're recommending that we repeal section 36.1 and replace it with these words. The executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state. Remember when I mentioned to you earlier that the Prime Minister will become the Governor General, take on the powers of the Governor General as well as those of the courts. He will also take on the powers of the head of state. Now, I don't remember when last we ever voted for a Prime Minister to be the head of state. But that's what they're heading for. Okay? That's their hope, their wishes. But they're not prepared to go through the proper or the proper way. Let me say it like that. They want to do it like as a backhanded way. Okay? But they're trying to recruit us, the people, for them to hide behind, because they don't have no clothes. They're naked in their ambition and their greed for power. But they don't want to be at the front as leaders to lead the charge into battle. They want to lead from behind and allow we, the people, to take up the slack and face the enemy, regardless of how many of us fall. Because if the battle can be won at the end of the day, they will be at the back, out of harm's way. And they will take on the powers, and do what they want with it. of course, if we're successful. But as far as I could see right now, they're so. Let me not get into that part. Let me leave the honing until the end of the program. Um, I'll yield back to you for right now, Greg. Don't mind, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you
You're
can
welcome, sir.
see, even within the people that they have chosen, they are having differences. Because some people believe that some part of the Constitution that they want to touch, they should not touch. And when they speak about it, they're saying they don't have no right to class their opinion. If they wanted to
Which is
class
wrong
their opinion, they should not have been being a part of it. How
because they were
ludicrous.
the one that recruit them. They recruited them, and those people are Belizean too, and they have the right to have their say, even if they don't get to have their way. So even on that one simple point, they are being dismissive and outrageous. I yield back, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But as I was saying, it goes beyond that because when they start with one informal amendment to the Constitution, it opened the doors for them to do more. And
Mhm.
as you can see, he's already pointing to the powers of Belize, which is the police, the BDF, the Coast Guard.
Trying to recruit them for their own
Right.
nefarious purpose.
So I believe that is what they're after. And perhaps that is why they are putting up, how much did he say? 1,000 cameras all over Belize to watch who? Because not everybody is doing crime. So who are they watching? Who will they be watching? 1,000 cameras. And if they say that is to help with crime, just look at the poor rate of their percentage when it comes to conviction, less than 5%. I go back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Hmm. They also want to make a change here where they say under recommendations number 63, subsection 2, they say repeal section 36.2 and replace it with subject to the provisions of this constitution. The executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of the people of Belize either directly or through the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister or Deputy Minister, or officers subordinate to the Prime Minister. So everybody now be subordinate to the Prime Minister. A bunch of jackals. Anyhow, they say repeal section 36.3, repeal section 37 all the way through 49. In other words, for all intents and purposes, repeal the whole. I don't know. I think we will be having fun for the next few years, Greg, if we are still alive. We're gonna be having fun because we told them so long before now, and we still tell them so now. And I guess we have to tell them
And
so
it's
all along
happening.
the journey.
It's happening slowly, right before our eyes, as we keep saying it. Right before our eyes, it is happening.
But what ails me, is that our local people who are very much unfamiliar with these issues of esoterics have no problem with it, going forward the way the Prime Minister and the way the rest of the jackals are proposing it. Why? Because they don't see any problem. They can't see the problem until when it becomes the problem, and then it's too late for them to do anything about it. They rather stay on Facebook and on TikTok. They watch jokes and comedy and all kind of stuff instead of take care of their business and look out for their own well-being and interest. In fact, so then they did a job and then they put on phone, they giggle and they carry on. put their job in danger. You know, people are, I don't know. Anyhow, let me, where are we 24? Oh, man. Okay, I got to get to a point where we could wrap it up. No, uh, I don't want to be reading all these words that they have here and everything that they're proposing here because um, it, it's not realistically viable for the short amount of time we have left, probably about 6 minutes at the most. I'll just skip that and I'll read a little part of the Constitution again just for context, no? Because I think it's necessary. Okay, that should be okay. Provided that no person shall okay. If occasion arises for making an appointment to the office of Prime Minister while the National Assembly is dissolved, then, notwithstanding the provisions of Section 2 of this section, a person who was a member of the House of Representatives immediately before the dissolution may be appointed as Prime Minister by the Governor General. The Governor General, under Section 4, the Governor General shall remove the Prime Minister from office if a resolution of non-confidence or no confidence in the government is passed by the House of Representatives and the Prime Minister does not within 7 days either resign from his office or advise the Governor General to dissolve the National Assembly. The office of the Prime Minister shall also become vacant under paragraph E as stated here if the holder of the office as Prime Minister cease to be a member of the House of Representatives otherwise than by reason of the dissolution of the National Assembly, as well as under paragraph B, if by virtue of section 59(3) of this Constitution, he is required to cease to perform his functions as a member of the House, or as in the case of paragraph C, if he, the Prime Minister or former Prime Minister in this instance, is informed by the Governor General that the Governor General is in accordance with subsection 2 or 3 of this section about to appoint him as Prime Minister or to appoint another person as Prime Minister. In exercise of the powers conferred on him by this section, the Governor General shall act in his own deliberate judgment. So there you can see that the Governor General has the right and the powers vested in him or her to act in his or her deliberate judgment, not necessarily only at the behest of the Prime Minister and or the Cabinet or any Cabinet member per se. Of course, we'll deal with some other matters relating to this subject at some other point in time. Thank you very much for the time spared tonight to bless us with your presence and to hear what we had to offer. I'll just turn over to Greg for his last comments.
I want to just play this to hear what the Foreign Minister had to say.
So it's a combination of both.
How will you determine at the end of it if whether there's a majority that's in rejection to the bill, and what's the course of action then?
Yeah, I think obviously, we're taking careful, copious notes of everything that is recorded. We have to report back to the House Committee. Of course, we have to report back to our Cabinet on the state of the bill. And I think coming out of those discussions, we'll be in a position to determine exactly, where people stand, where the public stands on this bill. And I think any government, wants to ensure that we're not doing something that the public is totally against. But if there's an opportunity to refine the bill, to amend it, to improve it, to make it more effective, and at the same time achieve our stated objectives, then we'll try to find that middle ground.
No, Mr. Chairman, this is the good part.
I'll beg your indulgence for another comment after you finish make yours.
This is the good part. The double standards, Mr. Chairman.
The bottom line with the Petrocarib loan motion is we are not interested in any amendments. The resounding cry and call from the Belizean people. It has come from the Chamber of Commerce. It has come from the National Trade Union Congress of Belize. It has come from APAMO. All of these entities have called for the repeal of this act, this Petrocarib Loans Act. Not amendment, not fixing it, repealing it. This is a law that cannot be fixed. It is a law that must go. It must be repealed. It is a law all about Mr. Barrow again, his ego, protecting him above the law, not answerable to anybody. He listens to nobody and answers to nobody. That is Dean Barrow, the Prime Minister of this country. And this law is all about him, all about him, all about covering up for him, protecting himself. That is what this law is all about. And these amendments are absolutely not acceptable to us and not acceptable to the Belizean people. And so we reject them, and we continue to demand that this Petrocarib Loans Act be repealed, be fully repealed. We are prepared to offer, as we were today, to offer proper suggestions and recommendations for what can be put in place to replace this Petrocarib Loans Act.
Mr. Chairman, no, and people at home and abroad.
Hypocrisy at the heights.
Isn't that what the attorneys are saying? Don't do this. Don't do the 13th Amendment. But you still want to do it? You want to take your wrong and make an amendment to the Constitution to correct your wrong. So no, it's the double standards. But you know what? For that double standards, nobody could have said it better
than himself.
Than this right here.
One teacher teach me in a primary school that when you lose the High Court, you got a Court of Appeal. And then after Court of Appeal, you got a CCJ. The teacher never teach me that when you lose the High Court, you got to change the Constitution to make it suit you. So that's where we are with the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment is saying, hey, yo, we recognize that we failed. We recognize that legal recourse by virtue of appeal will not likely be successful because there's no evidence that you could take to the Court of Appeal that would convince those people that, oh, the SOE was properly in order, no? And if you do convince them, the law in the Caribbean is very clear about when you trigger SOE and the criteria. So when you go to the CCJ without any evidence, because you can't add new evidence now, no? You can't change the game now. You can't say, oh, sorry, we need for giving you the insight we never given you at the High Court, no? You can't do that. So when they would have gone to the CCJ would have ruled it how they saw it. But I think they don't see that game. You don't need law degree to realize what would have happened there. So they say we're going to supermajority, let's change the law. And this is what frightens me. This is why I started with that little prose. Because today the proposal is to change the law to ratify the SOE actions. But that can be a slippery slope.
A good one, sir. Good one, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I go to you for your closing.
Thank you very much. And all I would like to say as far as the closing in regards to these matters, and specifically, let me just take the chance to target the 13th Amendment specifically. The 13th Amendment is a very onerous law, well, not law yet, but intended to be a very onerous, disingenuous bastardization of our Constitution, and they're hoping to put that into effect and thinking and hoping that they will be able to get away with it. They don't care who all get hurt by it because they don't expect that they themselves will be caught up into that crazy scenario. No police officer will stop them and pull them out of their vehicle and beat them down on the ground and go charge them afterwards for resisting arrest. But when that happened to the average person on the street, they say, "Oh, well, you violated the law." The law that was made by a privileged few for the welfare and the benefit of those privileged few, and not for me and you. When in fact, we have them hired to make laws for me and you and for the rest of the population. But they make onerous laws that don't affect them, and they do it with such vengeance against the people or the public, with no regards or consideration or respect. Because all these people that are being pulled up in these SOEs, which are unwarranted and don't meet the criteria in the first place, but they continue putting them into effect. And then when they lose the cases, they want to go and change the law. If you make a law that is inconsistent with the current Constitution, Section 2 of the Constitution says, to the extent of the inconsistency, that law is bogus and null and void. What part of that they don't understand? I yield back, sir, and could you close it out for us?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
We have come to the end of our program, and I would like to say good night to you, the people at home and abroad, thanking those of you who tune in to our live, and also thanking you, the ones that will listen to our program when we are off the air. And again, we ask you to tune in on Monday when we go back again to Belizean affairs, subjects that are hampering our Belizean people. With that, I say good night.